Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another coffee rant with Dano and Frank, our Patriot Bald Eagle. Port shutdown looks like it is imminent here in the U.S. along the East Coast and some of the Gulf shores here from New England to Texas. It looks like no deal has been done. A lot of people have been talking about this in the comments. I had hopes that there would have been a solution. The solution doesn't look like it is happening. We're going to be reading a little bit from USA Today. They've done an article on this where they talk the numbers. I always look at the numbers, but there have been several other websites like the New York Times and the Washington Post and some other ones, but we are reading from USA Today. Their headline is Port Workers Strike Could Snarl the Supply Chain and Bust Your Holiday Budget. Now, I wouldn't, yeah, okay. So if we can't get toys and stuff, well, that's one thing. We're more concerned with like clothes, food, those kind of things. So, but that seems to be the thing. Everybody's worried about the holiday stuff, and sure, I get it, but let's read a little bit here before we start. We're going to read different parts of this and then kind of chat about it for a minute. They go on to say Americans could face high prices and shortages, of course, again this holiday season, but this time it would be because of a worker strike instead of a global pandemic. As of Thursday, the International Longshoremen's Association, or the ILA, as we will refer to them, said labor talks with the United States Maritime Alliance, or the USMX, remain at a standstill, and about 45,000 of its union workers at 36 East Coast and Gulf Coast ports are all ready to walk on October 1st for the first time since 1977. Now, this is something that's going to be a lot bigger than what I think people realize. Okay, like USA Today and some other websites are going over like a handful of things that are going to be in short supply. That is one thing. The next thing is what comes next after this and how long will it last. I was reading an article earlier for every day that this went on some years back. It was costing the country $1 billion. I think USA Today goes in on. I read several articles. Let's keep reading here for a second. A strike could lead to shortages of certain items and boost prices for voters already frustrated with housing and food inflation, experts said. The ports handle about half of the U.S. ocean imports, including food, clothing, auto parts, cars shipped via container, and holiday toys, experts said. Quote, a supply chain disruption would undoubtedly lead to price increases across the board and would impact consumers' ability to find the toys they are looking for in the weeks and months ahead, end quote. Said Greg Ahern, president and chief executive of the Toy Association. So sure, he would be concerned with that. I'm more concerned with food and prices going up in the grocery stores for people that can barely afford to eat these days. I mean, it's outrageous. Guys, I have a video coming out tomorrow. Even if you don't shop at Meijer, I recommend you check this video out tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, because I saw some very disturbing things. Some very high prices, some things that you may not believe. I mean, extreme. And if that is what's to come, and we talk about this a little bit in tomorrow's video, because I have a feeling, I mean, obviously a lot of these stores know what's going on. They know the potential. They know the possibility. What stores can stay afloat if this happens, we'll just have to see. That's the bad thing, is only time will tell. After clogged... And they have this other section that says diversification doesn't work. After clogged post-pandemic ports on the West Coast kept more than 150 container ships waiting to dock in February of 2022, according to the Department of Transportation, companies began shipping more of their wares through the East Coast and Gulf Coast ports, experts said. Well, doesn't that propose quite a problem? Simultaneously, to cut their reliance on China, which was slow to reopen and faced more intense government scrutiny after the pandemic, companies began sourcing from different countries, especially Southeast Asia, said Chris Tang, distinguished professor at the University of California, Los Angeles, who specializes in supply chain management. Many companies shipping goods from Southeast Asia and East Coast use East Coast ports because they're closer. Quote, because of these changing dynamics, the East Coast strike impact is more pronounced, Tang said. Okay, now they go into what products will be affected, and I have a feeling it's going to be a lot more than this. Okay, so they go on, they say, aside from holiday goods, which, yeah, it's going to be a big problem for holiday goods. Maybe some of the holiday, not just toys, but maybe the foods we get, different things, different ingredients. Another thing I go over in tomorrow's video. 8:30 a.m. Eastern, guys. Even if you don't shop at Meijer, I recommend checking it out. Seafood is one they mention here. Seafood like codfish from Iceland or Canada and shrimp from Thailand or Ecuador. Quote, those aren't as easy to transport by train because they're refrigerated and perishable, Tang said. And airship is very expensive. And then they go on to say electronics like cell phones and computers now come from Southeast Asian nations like Vietnam, Indonesia, and Thailand instead of China and are routed through East Coast ports, Tang said. Curious to see when we'll start seeing those actually from Vietnam, Indonesia, or Thailand. Make sure you check next time you buy a phone or your computer. Pharmaceuticals. Oh, yeah, here's a big one. Pharmaceuticals, although these are easier, quote, to ship by air because they are a higher value product, but there could be drug shortages if negotiations can't be settled within a month or so. Mind you, this is going to cost a fortune for you, me, and everybody else in this country. But I'm not saying I don't want the workers to get paid. The dock workers got to make money. There's got to be something. There's got to be some common ground that everybody can reach, right? These people are getting super rich while these people are probably barely able to maintain their work and their families. They have to get paid. Okay, so I don't know much of the logistics of it all. I just know that here we are 48 hours away from a major port shutdown. Okay? And sorry if I get a little passionate about that. Okay, so cars and auto parts. This is a big one too. The Port of Baltimore. Let me mention also, speaking of Port of Baltimore, my mom and family are home. There's a lot of people who've been asking that question. I wanted to wait she got home last night. Family got home last night. They flew in, no problems, even with the rain and everything. Their ship, which was the Vision of the Seas by Royal Caribbean, did make it back, even through some pretty treacherous waters, as she was telling me. But she has been kind of busy and catching up on rest and stuff like that. But I'll be chatting with her later about a lot of these things. But wanted to mention they are back home safe. Thank you all for all of your thoughts and prayers. That was a crazy cruise. That was a crazy time but they still had a blast. They still had a lot of fun. And just wanted to put that out there. Thank you all again for your thoughts and prayers. Okay, so cars and auto parts. The Port of Baltimore, Maryland leads the nation in car shipments. European cars come through this port and may experience a shortage, experts said. Auto parts from Europe often pass through East Coast and Gulf Coast ports. Machinery parts. The East Coast ports are also surpass others in the U.S. in shipments of machinery, like fabricated steel and precision instruments, according to the S&P Global Market Intelligence. Now, here's one where I'm just like, okay, let's just throw this out here. It's one that's going to be a major issue. Okay? Bananas. Kind of like, I don't know. Bananas. We'll just stop there. No jokes. 3/4 of the nation's bananas enter through the East Coast and Gulf Coast ports, said Jason Miller, who was an interim chair of Michigan State University's Department of Supply Chain Management. Quote, there is, and they have in parentheses, zero chance of shifting all these imports to the West Coast, and the low dollar value per unit of weight for bananas means putting them on planes is not economical, end quote, he wrote in the LinkedIn post. Quote, moreover, you can't front load a perishable product. There's going to be a lot of things, guys. That's it. That's all they talk about here. And it's like they're talking about all the same things. Nobody cares about all these other products. It's all about the cell phones and computers and cars. Which, yes, that is important. Very important. That is what keeps the economy booming in price, selling. I get it. I get it. But grocery stores are going to start going up in price if this does not get fixed. Every day this happens. And we'll be keeping up with some of these things. Don't worry about that. But I'm starting to feel, okay, and this is a little bit of a spoiler for tomorrow's video. I'm starting to feel like a lot of these stores are either, if they're not dumping product with an incredible sale, if you notice, we've seen some pretty incredible sales at Kroger lately, as to we're not seeing it at like Meijer, but we are seeing it at some places like Aldi and some Walmart, not as much Walmart as we are Aldi, for good deals. But I feel like these stores know what's going on. They know the possibility, and they know the possibility of what's going to happen if the ports do shut down, and they're going to have to make up their prices in other ways. Everybody has to eat. That is going to be passed on to the consumer. As we've seen over the last couple years, anytime there is a major event of something like this, grocery prices go up. Now, usually when there's something like this and it levels off, sometimes prices will go down. People have been mentioning this in the comments, okay? And I've read your comments on it, and I agree. I completely agree. I was hoping something would happen, but it has not. It looks like, I don't know, unless they reach a deal by tomorrow night. Today is Sunday, September 29th, 2024, I think. September 29th, yeah. I mean, if we don't reach a deal, 29th, by tonight, or tomorrow night, it could get bad very quickly. It could get bad very quickly. And I'll tell you what, I don't even really know how to handle or talk about some of this stuff. I really don't. I've been trying to lean aside some of the different doom and gloom that I have talked about on the channel. But these are things that I have to put out here. We have to talk about these things. I feel bad in a way that we haven't talked about it earlier. Now, me and Jessica have been out of town. This has been looming for like the last few weeks. I've been keeping up with it a little bit, and it looked like a deal was going to get made, and it looked like this never has. Never has, and here we are. 48 hours, guys. 48 hours. So, I say this. We always talk about buying up the sales as we see them. Make sure that you're getting some of the products that, whether it's grocery store or whatever, take advantage of some of the sales that you see. But if it's anything that you need, anything that you know you can get for a good price right now, there's a good possibility that not only are we going to possibly see some shortages on some products of these different things, but we're most definitely going to see prices go up on it. Now, hopefully, if there is a strike, okay, hopefully it doesn't last more than a couple days. The way I mean, if, hopefully companies that are say, hey, well, they called our bluff. We got to pay the workers, pay them, and hopefully that is it after a day. Because it's looking like it's most definitely going to happen. They talk about companies maybe rerouting shipments. That is not cost effective. Some companies may face inventory space constraints. That's, besides, quote, given the long lead time for toy products, significant quantities are already in transit with shipping logistics having been in place for months. Okay, so they've been planning this for months. So whatever toys I guess you're looking for, they're probably talking about like video games, cell phones, computers, different things like that. They've probably already been shipping these out. Flashback. It says flashback on here. Black October is here. Transport delays, labor shortages, slow supply chain as holiday shopping begins. It's like everything just keeps getting worse, guys. It keeps mounting up, and it's just one thing after another. Every year, things started to cool off. And it's like now and I'm not saying this is an excuse or anything, but here we go. If we remember last year, remember what happened last year? We were talking about all the different prices and everything. What happened during the holiday season? We saw deals at like middle September. That's why I was telling people, get these deals now, because we saw these prices go up before the holidays. We didn't see good deals of Thanksgiving until the last week of November. And then at that, it really wasn't much better till Christmas. And then after Christmas, we saw deals on items that, okay, Christmas is over. I guess I'll buy it for a New Year's party or something. But I mean, these stores, they're all doing the same thing. They're all doing the same thing, whether it's the store itself, whether it's the manufacturers, whether it's definitely, I don't see where it can be transportation anymore. We used to say that because of the shortage of employees, but doesn't look like there's any shortage of employees anymore. So what's the next excuse? Greed. I mean, you could say anything you want. We can't really pin it. We would have to have those numbers, which we don't. Okay, this is interesting right here. So they talk about the one strike day, or the thing I was talking about before. Generally, one strike day would take 3 to 5 days to catch up. So for each day, it's going to cost 3 to 5 days to play catch up here. And, quote, the longer the strike goes, the more that's compounded, obviously. Okay, and then, quote, in 2002, when we had an 11-day lockout on the West Coast because of labor negotiations, that cost, in parentheses, the economy $1 billion a day and took 6 months to recover and get stuff out. And we know this because, yeah, that's how it happened. And it was a living nightmare. Quote, trade is higher now than in 2002, so it could take even longer. Back then, the Bush administration invoked, this is interesting. Back then, the Bush administration invoked the Taft-Hartley Act, okay, that was to force the ports to reopen. The act allows the federal government to seek a court junction against a strike to allow both parties to continue negotiations during an 80-day cooling off period. I could see where today's day and age that could be really bad too. And it says here, they put in here, will the Biden administration help? The Biden administration has declined to invoke the Taft-Hartley Act. Instead, White House officials encouraged ongoing discussions despite pleas for help from retail, agriculture, commerce, auto care, toys, and other groups for months. Months. Quote, it's an election year, so Biden may intervene to help. In parentheses, Democratic presidential nominee Kamala may intend to help, I guess her Tang said. Isn't it too late? Isn't it too late for anybody? Somebody could step in. I don't care who it is. Left, right, center, up, down, whoever. Why is this happening? Why? Negotiations for months. You know, it's like when Congress or when the it all shuts down, when the government shuts down, right? And it's costing everybody money. Everybody. Right? And guys, I don't know. I just wanted to do this video for you guys. I wanted to talk about it. It's part of the reason why I didn't want to talk about it, because I didn't really know what to think. You know, it's like all of this nonsense that could have been fixed like months ago because people are trying to save a few pennies on the dollar and not pay the dock workers. And there may be other things, okay? There may be other things with the dock workers and stuff. You know, maybe there's more things than what I'm thinking here. I always think for the working man. You know, I'm always thinking for the middle class, if there is a middle class anymore. I feel like we're either poor or you're rich way out here. Like, I don't really feel like there's any middle class. I don't know. They're saying he might help negotiations because it's important to Harris. Well, then there has to be some other kind of act, right? If you're not doing this act because this was solely something that another president had invoked, then that's selfish, ain't it? Or is that's again, we're being separated, right? We're being divided. We should be Americans and not these other things that you know, this really hard left and hard right thing. You got to do what's best for America no matter what it is. Good things will come to people who do action and want to help the people. And that is what all parties of all things should be doing. Characterizing U.S. supply chains and the economy as, quote, more resilient than they were when they came into office, end quote. White House spokesperson Robin Patterson said, quote, "The Supply Chain Disruptions Task Force is up and running and is prepared to respond swiftly to help minimize potential disruptions in the event of a prolonged strike by engaging extensively with the ports." Well, where are you? Right? That's okay. Okay. Calm down. Calm down, Dano. Take a little sip here. Hi, Frank. It's frustrating. You can see now why I have not wanted to talk about this, because this is a frustrating subject for not just me, but everybody. Everybody. It's absolutely ridiculous. These things just keep happening. And I shouldn't have even gone into the last half of this, because I feel like no matter what, they're just putting it out there because they want you to see what they want you to see, hear what they want you to hear. Fact of the matter is, dock workers need to get paid. The people paying them need to figure it out, or come to a common medium. I mean, we have these things all the time. We have, it's what we have unions for, right? You got the unions for these things. Obviously, if things aren't working out, people don't want to. I don't, like I said, I don't know all the logistics of it, but we have a history of different workers stepping up for their employees, and employees that feel they are not getting their fair share, and that is the position that we are in. However, in this case, it's big. It's real big, and it could cost a lot more money to every one of you, even the one paying your employees, right? It's going to cost you too to not get something done. Guys, I hope this all works out. I really do. I will continue to do what I can do on keeping up on some of the grocery prices to help you and I and everyone out here save money. But these things are out of my control, out of your control. We just have to roll with the punches, keep your head on a swivel, make sure that you are stocking up on the sales as you see them. We have to stick to the same goal on our channel here. Make sure that, keep things in the means of what you can afford, and make sure you're paying attention to these things, because you don't want to be left paying an exuberant more amount of money for groceries than we already are. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great night.